They say numbers don't lie, but sometimes they hide the truth. 90% of people forced out of their homes, entire neighborhoods gone, schools turned into dust, millions unsure if they will eat tomorrow. These numbers sound big, but they still feel distant, like something happening far away, like just another headline scrolling past your screen. But what if these numbers are not just data? What if each number is a life, a family, a story that suddenly stopped? This is not history. This is happening right now. It starts with a number, a percentage, something simple, something easy to read, 90% displaced. You hear it, you understand it, and then you move on. But stop for a second. What does 90% really look like? Imagine your street, your house, your neighbors. Now imagine almost all of them gone. Doors left open, rooms empty, streets silent, no lights at night, no voices, just absence. That is what 90% means. It means almost everyone you know is no longer there. Then comes another number, 3% killed. It sounds small compared to 90, right? But think about it. In a city of 1 million people, that is 30,000 lives lost. 30,000 people who had names, families, plans, dreams, reduced to a number that fits into one line of a report. And then 8% injured. Injured doesn't just mean hurt. It means people living with pain, with loss, with bodies that will never be the same again. It means hospitals filled beyond capacity, doctors working without rest, and still not enough help for everyone. But the numbers don't stop there. 77% facing food insecurity. That means most people don't know when their next meal will come. It means parents skipping meals so their children can eat. It means long lines for food that might run out before your turn comes. Hunger becomes normal. And when hunger becomes normal, survival becomes the only goal. 92% of buildings damaged or destroyed. That's not just houses. That's hospitals, shops, roads, everything that makes daily life possible. When buildings fall, systems fall with them. Water stops, electricity disappears, communication breaks. Life as people knew it no longer exists. And then there are schools, 93% damaged or gone. Think about that for a moment. An entire generation without classrooms, without teachers, without a place to learn or dream about the future. Education doesn't just pause, it disappears. 61 million tons of debris. It's hard to even imagine that number, but it means cities buried under broken concrete, twisted metal, and dust. It means even if the violence stops, the destruction remains. Clearing it alone would take years. And then agriculture, only 4% left intact. That means almost all local food production is gone. No crops, no farming, no stability. A place that once fed itself now depends on aid just to survive. When you hear all of this together, it feels overwhelming. Too big to fully understand, too heavy to carry. So the mind does something natural. It turns it into numbers. Because numbers are easier to handle than reality. But behind every percentage, there is a person. Behind every statistic, there's a moment when everything changed. A family leaving their home with nothing but what they can carry. A child asking when they can go back to school. A parent trying to explain something they don't even understand themselves. These are not just numbers. This is what happens when life is broken at every level. Home, food, safety, future. And yet, even after hearing all of this, it still feels like something is missing. Because numbers can tell you how much is lost. But they don't tell you what it feels like to lose everything. It doesn't collapse all at once. It disappears piece by piece. First, the small things stop working. The tap runs dry, the lights flicker, and then never come back. Phones lose signal, shops don't open. At first, people think it's temporary, just a bad day. Maybe tomorrow everything will be normal again. But tomorrow comes, and nothing changes. Water becomes something you search for, not something you expect. People start walking long distances just to find a few liters. Clean water becomes rare. And when water becomes rare, sickness begins to spread. Not because people don't care, but because they have no choice. Then comes food. Markets that were once full are now empty. Shelves are bare. Trucks stop arriving. Prices rise so fast that money loses meaning. Even if you have it, there is nothing to buy. Families begin to eat less. One meal a day becomes enough. Then, even that becomes uncertain. Parents lie to their children. They say, "We'll eat later." They say, "I'm not hungry." But the truth is simple. They are trying to stretch whatever little is left. This is how hunger enters a place. Quietly at first, then it takes over everything. At the same time, homes are no longer safe. Buildings that once protected people now become dangerous. Walls crack, roofs fall, entire streets turn into piles of broken concrete. People stop sleeping properly, not because they don't want to, but because they are afraid they might not wake up. So they leave, not because they want to, but because staying is no longer possible. They carry what they can, a bag, some clothes, maybe a photo, and they walk away from everything they've ever known. No plan, no clear destination, just movement. Because standing still feels more dangerous. And when millions of people start moving at the same time, something else breaks. The idea of home. Temporary shelters appear, crowded spaces, tents lined up side by side. No privacy, no comfort, just survival. People who once had stable lives now share space with strangers, all of them trying to hold on to what little dignity they have left. Then the health system collapses. Hospitals fill beyond their limits. Doctors run out of supplies. Medicines become rare. Injuries that could once be treated easily now become life-threatening. Simple infections turn dangerous. And the worst part? People still keep coming, needing help that no one can fully provide. And then silence falls over something even deeper. Education. Schools are gone, classrooms destroyed, books buried under debris. Children who once had routines now have nothing to wake up for. No lessons, no future plans. Just long days filled with uncertainty. A child who should be learning is now learning how to survive. This is how a system disappears, not just buildings, not just services, but the structure of daily life itself. The rhythm that once gave people stability, wake up, go to work, send children to school, come back home, that rhythm is gone. And when that rhythm is gone, time feels different. Days blur together, nights feel longer. People stop planning for the future because the present is already too heavy to handle. Even the land itself changes. Farms that once produced food are no longer usable. Fields are damaged, tools are gone. Farmers cannot return, and without farming, there is no recovery. Because food is not just survival, it is stability. And without stability, everything else continues to fall apart. What you are seeing is not just damage. It is not just destruction. It is a full system shutting down, layer by layer, piece by piece, until nothing familiar remains. And the most frightening part? People slowly begin to accept it. What once felt impossible becomes normal. What once felt shocking becomes routine. Hunger becomes normal. Displacement becomes normal. Loss becomes normal. And when something like this becomes normal, that is when you realize this is not just a crisis anymore. Everyone sees it, but no one says it. The images are everywhere. Broken cities, empty streets, lines of people waiting for food, children sitting in places that used to be schools. The world is watching. The cameras are recording. The reports are being written. And yet, something feels incomplete. Listen closely to how it's described. You'll hear words like conflict. You'll hear crisis, tension, situation. Careful words, safe words. Words that explain, but don't fully reveal. It's not that people don't know what's happening. It's that they choose how to talk about it. Because words carry weight. The moment you use a certain word, everything changes. Responsibility changes. Reactions change. The way the world responds changes. So instead, the language stays controlled. Statements are made, long sentences carefully built, every word checked, every phrase adjusted. Not too strong, not too direct, just enough to describe, but not enough to define. And while this careful language continues, the reality on the ground doesn't wait. People are still leaving their homes. Families are still searching for food. Children are still growing up without schools. But the conversation? It moves slowly, carefully, almost like it's afraid of its own conclusion. Look at the headlines. They tell you what is happening, but they stop just before saying what it means. They show numbers, but avoid the final word that connects them all. It's like a sentence that never reaches its ending. Why? Because saying it out loud is not just about description, it's about consequence. Once you name something clearly, you can't ignore it anymore. You can't stay neutral. You can't step back and watch from a distance. Naming it forces a response. And that is where the hesitation begins. Different voices say different things. Some speak strongly, some stay silent, some change the topic. Debates begin, not about what is happening, but about how it should be described. And in that debate, time passes. Time that the people on the ground don't have. For them, there is no debate. They are not asking what words should be used. They are asking how to survive the next day. But far away from them, in rooms filled with discussions and decisions, the focus shifts. Language becomes the center. What should we call this? What should we avoid saying? What are the consequences of each word? And so the silence grows, not because nothing is being said, but because the most important thing is being held back. A silence built not on ignorance, but on choice. Because once the right word is spoken, it cannot be taken back. It cannot be softened. It cannot be hidden behind numbers or reports. It stands alone, clear, direct, and impossible to ignore. And maybe that's the real reason it isn't said. Not because people don't know it, but because they do. And they understand exactly what it would mean if they said it out loud. At some point, numbers stop being enough. You've heard them already. 90% displaced, 3% gone, 77% hungry. Entire cities reduced to dust. Schools erased, systems collapsed. Lives turned upside down. We repeat these numbers again and again, hoping they will finally explain the scale of what's happening. But they don't, because numbers can measure damage. They can count loss, they can show how big something is, but they cannot answer one simple question. What is this? Look at everything together. A place where most people have been forced out, where homes are no longer homes, where food is uncertain, where children have no schools, where the future has been paused, or maybe even erased. If you step back and see the full picture, it becomes clear that this is not just one problem. It's not just about food. It's not just about buildings. It's not just about displacement. It's everything, happening at once. A complete breakdown of life as it once existed. And still, the question remains, because we've described everything around it, except the thing itself. We've explained the impact. We've shown the damage. We've shared the stories. But we've stopped just before naming it. Why? Maybe because naming it feels final. Maybe because once you give it a name, you accept what it truly is. And acceptance brings responsibility. It demands action. It demands clarity. It demands that the world responds, not with words, but with decisions. So instead, the question is left open, hanging there, unanswered. What do we call something where almost an entire population is pushed out? What do we call a place where survival replaces living? What do we call a reality where destruction becomes normal? You already know the answer. You felt it building with every number, with every image, with every story. It's there, just unspoken. And maybe that's why it feels so heavy. Because deep down, this is not about a lack of information. It's about a lack of acknowledgement. The truth is not hidden. It's right in front of us, measured, recorded, seen by millions. And yet, still waiting to be said. So now the question is not just for leaders or media or governments. It's for anyone watching. After everything you've seen, after everything you've heard,